The air in the cabin was thick with tension, and the only sound that pierced the darkness was the howling wind outside. My friends and I had retreated to this remote cabin in the woods for a weekend of fun and relaxation. But now, as night descended upon us, an unsettling feeling had settled over our group. It all began with a casual conversation earlier in the evening. Emily had mentioned a local legend about the Wendigo, a malevolent creature said to roam these very woods. We had all laughed it off as nothing more than a spooky campfire tale. But now, as the hours passed and strange noises echoed through the surrounding forest, doubt began to gnaw at our hearts. I was sitting by the fire, its flickering flames casting eerie shadows on the walls, while the others huddled together on the worn-out couch. We had all tried to reassure ourselves that it was just our imagination, that the stories we'd heard were nothing more than folklore. Yet there was no denying the feeling that something was out there, lurking in the darkness. As the night wore on, we decided to lock all the doors and windows, just to ease our minds. It was only when we began securing the place that we realized the unsettling truth. There were no locks on any of the doors. Panic set in, and we desperately piled furniture in front of the entrances, hoping to buy ourselves some time if the need arose. The wind outside had grown stronger, and the tree branches scratched against the cabin's windows like bony fingers. Emily's face was pale as she whispered, "What if the Wendigo is real? What if it's out there right now watching us?" No one had an answer, and our nerves were stretched to the breaking point. Suddenly, a deafening crash from the kitchen shattered the uneasy silence. We all jumped to our feet, heartbeats racing, and grabbed whatever we could find as makeshift weapons. With trembling hands, I led the way into the dimly lit kitchen. What we found there would haunt our nightmares forever. The cabin's windows had been shattered, and a freezing gust of wind blew through the room. But it was what lay on the floor that froze our blood, a set of enormous gnarled footprints in the snow, leading from the window and into the heart of the cabin. The Wendigo's tracks. Fear clamped down on us like a vice, and we knew there was no escaping this nightmare. We couldn't call for help. We were miles from civilization, and our phones had no signal. We had only each other, and the terrifying realization that we were being hunted by something not of this world. The night dragged on, each passing moment marked by creaks and whispers from the surrounding woods. The cabin felt like a fragile fortress, and we were trapped inside, prey for a creature that should only exist in nightmares. Hours turned into eternity, and the tension in the cabin reached its breaking point. Emily suggested that we needed to make a run for it, to escape the cabin and the creature that stalked us. With trepidation, we agreed, knowing that our chances were slim, but staying put was not an option. We gathered our meager belongings, barely speaking, and crept toward the front door. As we slowly pulled away, the furniture barricading it, a low growl echoed through the cabin, freezing us in our tracks. The Wendigo was close, too close. Without warning, the front door burst open, and a grotesque, emaciated figure lunged into the cabin. Its skin was stretched taut over its skeletal frame, and its eyes glowed with an unholy hunger. It was the Wendigo, and it had come for us. Chaos erupted as we fought desperately to fend off the creature. Emily screamed as it closed in on her, its bony fingers reaching for her throat. I swung a fire poker at it, connecting with its head, and it let out a guttural screech of pain. It retreated momentarily, giving us a precious few seconds to escape. We ran into the forest, the freezing air biting at our exposed skin. Our breaths came in ragged gasps, and our hearts pounded like war drums. The Wendigo pursued us relentlessly, its unearthly howls echoing through the trees. One by one, my friends fell to the creature's insatiable hunger. I could hear their agonized screams as the Wendigo closed in on them, and I knew I was the last one left. Desperation consumed me as I pushed my body to the limit, my only goal to survive. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, I stumbled upon a hidden cave deep in the woods. I ducked inside, my heart pounding in my chest, and prayed that the Wendigo hadn't followed me. I waited in the darkness, shivering with fear and exhaustion. Hours passed, and there was no sign of the creature. Perhaps it had lost interest or couldn't find me in the labyrinthine woods. As dawn broke, I cautiously emerged from the cave, my senses on high alert. The woods were eerily silent, and there was no trace of the Wendigo. I was the sole survivor, But the terror of that night would never leave me. The Wendigo had left its mark on my soul, a reminder that some horrors are not confined to stories told around a campfire. I knew that I would never truly escape the haunting memory of that night in the woods, and I could only hope that the Wendigo had moved on to find another group of unsuspecting victims. I understand I must come off as a coward, leaving my friends behind and hoping that the Wendigo might prioritize others instead of coming to finish the job. It started with myself and my friends. You may call it cowardice or weak, but until you come face to face with what we saw, smelt the death that reeked from its undying form, you truly don't know what your mind will decide until you're in that moment. However, to be perfectly honest, the Wendigo left its mark on my soul, and so did the guilt of leaving my friends behind. May their souls rest easy, for mine never will.